This podcast is brought to you by Rebecca Cassells of the Rising Dawn series. Do you like violence? Do you like smut? Are you tired of the stereotypical novels of werewolf romance out there and want something a little bit different? Then pick up Sparked Revolution, Book 1 in the Rising Dawn series by Rebecca Cassells. Available on Amazon, in Kindle, and paperback. You too can become a sponsor of Stories, the True and the Fictional by heading on over to buymeacoffee.com/STTATF or follow the link in the show notes. Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Stories, the True and the Fictional. We have another exciting interview for you, but first, you know the spiel. We've got to talk shop. Ryan, how are we? How are we going today?
Living the dream, mate, living the dream, and I especially have to be living the dream, seeing as we now have merch with my catchphrase on it.
Yes.
I'm very excited. Very, very excited. So please buy the shirt, and I'll keep saying the catchphrase until it feels like I'm corporate.
Yes.
But no. Doing good, man, living the dream, reading a lot of good books, watching a lot of good movies, and excited to talk to today's guest.
Sweet. Yes, well, he's quite popular around the indie author streaming area. See, he's rolling his eyes, but we know it's true. You know it's true. But before we bring him in, check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns, even me. Check out my books. They've got some great stuff out, something for everyone. But now let's get on with the show, bring in our guest. It is the one and only Mike Mollman. How are we today?
I am also living the dream. Happy weekend to you.
That's I've copyrighted that and patented it, so you owe me $5.75 in copyright.
US or Australian?
Yes.
Say US, because we'll get more.
Yeah, how much? I don't know what the flat rate is, but let's go with the US.
Can he say it all he wants if he buys the shirt? That's the question.
Yeah, that's fine. If you buy the shirt, you can say it all you want. Because I want at least one person other than me to I back in our band days when we had band shirts made, I used to wear one every show, pretty much every day out and about trying to promote them. So I'm gonna have to do the same with these shirts too.
Okay, excellent. Well, for those who may not know, who is Mike Mollman?
He is an author who one day will be profitable, maybe. I've written 5 books so far, but I'm hoping to get 3 out this year, and I've put 0 out so far. So it'll be a busy second half of the year. I got books here. So the first book I put out was Becoming a Druid. Brahmi is the main character. He's very powerful and kind of stupid. And that leads to lots of fun interactions. He's one of my favorite characters to write about because he does stupid things all the time.
That's what you want.
Yeah. The sequel is Sins and Sorrows. There's 4 so far out in this fantasy series. Speak with Elders. And the 4th one out of 7 is Desperate Dispatches. And then since people started to kind of maybe know me as a fantasy author, I said, well, I better go take a wild left turn. So I put out a sci-fi, The Haley Traveler. And so then I've been on a sci-fi kick for the last year and a half. And next year, I promise I'm going to go back to fantasy. But we'll see.
Now, there's a lot of potential there. Do you see yourself being able to connect those worlds? Could the people from the space world land in the fantasy world?
No.
No, it's not going to happen.
No. So the space, it takes place on Mars like 200 years in the future. It's post-apocalyptic. The fantasy is roughly 300 BC in England, especially in Cornwall and Devon, and maybe up to Stonehenge, because you can't write fantasy in England and not have Stonehenge in it.
Yeah.
So... But no, one has magic, one does not. So one has propulsion systems. So they are very, very different. And I have another sci-fi series coming out end of this month, because why write more in the series you have when you can start another one?
That's it. You sound very busy. We're going to get into all of that, but we do have a tradition here on the podcast where we do icebreaker questions to get to know you. We find the best way to sell people's books is to get to know them. It's like, hey,
Yep.
become friends with them, get to
Yeah,
know them, and then you feel obligated to buy their book. So
that's
that
how I
being,
do it because that's it. That's how it works on the podcast because I always get to know the authors, and 90% of the time I like them, and I end up buying their books on the actual interview. So yeah,
Okay, I have something to shoot for then.
that's it. Do
exactly.
you want to start, Ryan, or do you want me to start?
Yeah. No, look, I'll start today. I know last week I had a bit of a cold, so I'll let you do all the heavy lifting. So I'll start today. So first question, I'm going to set the scene for you. Okay, we live in a world where there's no crime. World peace is, prevalent across the entire world. There's no cruelty to people or cruelty to animals. Given that, what is one thing, if you could get rid of, you would?
So I tell my brother this all the time, and he tells me that he would lead the people to murder me. Um, but I would get rid of all smoking except for barbecue. I absolutely hate smoking of any kind. My parents were both chain smokers, and I've hated it since as long as I can remember. And that would be, I would abolish it again, except for barbecue because that's delicious.
Excellent.
I can 100 billion% get behind that because my parents were both not chain smokers, but pretty heavy smokers. That put me off smoking. I've never smoked a cigarette or anything in my life, but my wife
Yep.
used to. She quit 7 years ago. So she's doing good. But yeah, I'm 100% on board with getting rid of all kind of smoking, except for smoking meats and barbecue. So 100%.
I have one little addition just because of where I live. I live in a very fire zone, so we kind of have to backburn from time to time to prevent our town from burning down. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing that you know
No,
I'd say.
okay, fair. I mean,
Yeah.
public safety will allow it.
Yeah. No smoke. No, wait, what? Smoking is allowed when public safety is involved. Okay, that's what we can do. You have a whole lot of people out and firefighters now smoking.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah. All right. What is something that is on your bucket list?
So the one thing that is probably unique to me, that I would absolutely love to do is when I wrote my fantasy series, I actually looked up the map of England. He went to real places, and then I realized I couldn't call them that because they were, Anglo-Saxon names, and this takes place before them. So I gave them all different names, but they're actually every place he goes to is a real place in England, and I would love to go to England and just see the sites that I had to
Wow.
describe using Google. Um, so I'd like to see how close I got to it because you can only learn so much by looking at pictures.
Yeah. Would you change the signs while you're there?
I would definitely have to get pictures taken there. I might have to leave some like post-it notes or something.
Yeah.
No, this is really called. Yeah.
The little plaques you can get when you go to a historical site.
I'll put a little QR code on it, and I'll say, in Mike Mollman's books, this is known as.
Never underestimate the power of a QR code.
And just think, Jamie, you used to hate them.
Yeah, but that's because it was related to something else. But now I go put I put my books on a notice board because we have so many around where I live. I just go, here's a notice board, and they scan it. And someone took one off the board the other day. So I'm like, do I have a mortal enemy who doesn't want me to sell any books, or are they interested in my books? I don't know.
Maybe they didn't have their phone with them. Maybe they were old school and they needed to take the flyer so they could scan it when they got home or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I
Or then
guarantee.
their grandkid to do it.
Well, funny you say that because the majority of people that walk through that town are old. Like
Yeah.
so it probably happened. I remember when I did my emu book, I printed out some flyers and I stuck a bunch in the nursing home letterbox. Because they'll have plenty of time to read.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Next question is my favorite question. In your opinion, what is on your Mount Rushmore of television shows? So the top four TV shows you would consider to be on your Mount Rushmore.
Okay. I will actually try to get in good here with the host because my absolute favorite all-time show is Farscape.
Mm,
Oh, nice, nice.
yes.
Haven't heard Farscape for a long, long time.
Then I'm old school, so then I'd put Babylon 5, Firefly, and then the strange one is the Great British Baking Show that I guess the rest of the world calls Great British Bake Off.
Wow. That's
So
I like that. 3 sci-fi and a cooking show. Nice.
Yep.
That's yeah.
I like it.
incredible.
Very, Firefly is my favorite sci-fi show of all time. I don't necessarily I don't watch a lot of sci-fi. Movies, yes, but TV shows, no. But Firefly is my all-time favorite, and pretty bummed we didn't get any more than just one season, but at least we have that one season.
And a movie.
And a movie, yes, Serenity, yeah. But yeah, no, I'm very, very, very happy with those choices. I like it. So the interview will continue.
Look at.
All right.
Excellent. I'm
Sometimes
sure.
I literally sometimes we just drop the interview out if the answer to that question is not satisfactory.
well, it shall continue. Let me move back to the. Okay, this will be fun. I see you got a lot of weaponry on the back of your wall. So will this come into play with your zombie apocalypse plan?
So I actually gave this question the most thought. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but last week or so, I put out a picture. I work at a personal care company, and they made me make lipstick. I've been fighting it for 20 years. So a picture of me with and without lipstick.
Yep.
And I sat there thinking, I was like, you know what? I'm a large, slow target, and I'm probably not going to be able to blend in anywhere, and I'm not going to be able to outrun anyone. So what my plan is during zombie apocalypse, I'm going to apply that lipstick. I just made mascara. I'll put that on poorly as well, and then I will go join the zombies, and people be freaking out when the Joker, basically zombified, comes after them. And that is my plan.
a Joker zombie. Oh, that's great.
I like that. I like that. I don't think we've ever had anyone say, "Look, I'll just join them. I'll join them and just, become one with the enemy."
Yeah. I don't have to worry about healthcare anymore. I don't have to work necessarily. It just makes things easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's one stage when you get to in your adult life when you're like, you know what? If the world ended tomorrow, I wouldn't have to pay my bills. I wouldn't have to pay my debt. I wouldn't have to pay my rent. I'm kind of okay with that.
And when you get as old as me, you're like, I might just drop dead of a heart attack. And, all that's still fine. And, everyone else can, go on living. It's more altruistic that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that stage, don't get me wrong, I love life and I'm very, very happy, but I'm like, yeah, I've got a few things that I wouldn't have to pay back if the zombie apocalypse happened. I'd be okay. And I've got like 150 books on my iPad at the moment. So as long as we had electricity, a little bit of electricity or backup charges, I would be fine. Read and then, kill the occasional zombie.
Yeah. It's like
Sure.
it's like when our friend also named Michael he was notorious for not returning videos to the video shop back in the day. And he drummed up so many late fees that he just went to new video stores and he went to everyone in the area and even spread out far enough. And he avoided the fees as much as he could. And then they all went out of business and he's just like, whew.
Nice.
So I think the only video shops we have, like the video rental places in Australia we have are like, there's few and far between. They're just like little mum and dad shops.
Yeah.
where they're like we had so many different franchises, but they've all gone out of business.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was the same as Mike. There was a few blockbusters that I couldn't go back to because I had too many fees. So when they went out of business, I'm like, yep, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, question number 5.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Bill and Ted arrive outside your house in their phone booth time machine and say, "Whoa, dude, Rufus asked us to give you a free ride in our phone booth time machine. Where are you going?"
So would like to go to ancient Rome right about the time that Julius Caesar gets knifed 43 times. Because I mean,
Like literally
what
right
more
as you would be
monumental
there?
thing can you? I don't have anything against the man. I mean, but dude, you just think about ancient times and what's a more notable thing that happened than that. So that would be my choice.
So
Plus, I'd get tips. I could write fantasy
yeah.
then, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So you just sit in the corner and watch.
yeah. I don't want to get blood on my clothes. They're paying to clean.
Yeah.
So I'll just watch.
Especially with they all wore white back then, didn't they?
Yeah.
I'll just record them on my phone and then, like, no, I have film, Romans, and see what happens.
I love it. I definitely get behind that answer.
Excellent. So has he passed, Ryan? Has he passed the icebreakers?
Yes. Yeah, he passed 100%.
Right.
Very, very happy with the zombie apocalypse plan, becoming one, a Joker zombie. As a huge Batman fan, I definitely love that. And the TV show question, very good answer. And obviously the getting rid of smoking altogether. So yes, I think probably the best answers we've had so far.
Ooh,
There
wow.
you go. Flying
Man,
high.
I overshot.
Well, we're gonna switch over to the fun part where we get to learn about you and your writing. So, where did it start for you? Is it something you always did, or was it something you did later in life?
No, this is it always makes me feel guilty because I never ever thought I could be an author. I went to Catholic school for 12 years, so I'm very good at following rules. And when I went to university, I never even took English 101 or 102. So clearly, I am not allowed. I've not got the proper credentials. Never really thought about, writing until I've told this story before, but it's been a while. A friend of mine came up and said, Mike, the women's club that we're in, we're having one of the members' daughters coming up to do a book signing in the library. And it's very last minute. We're afraid no one's going to show up. I know you like to read. Would you consider coming just so we have people in the room? And I'm like, man, I have never met an author before in my life. I'm like, yes, I will come. Did not ask what the book was about, which was a fatal flaw. So I got there, and I am the only man in the room. There's about 15 people. There are mothers who brought their 12 and 14-year-old daughters, and the woman wrote a teenage romance book, and I'm the only male there, and I'm like, huh. And I knew if I left, I would never hear the end of it. And if I sat in the back corner, then everyone would just be going, who is that guy and why is he staring at my, so I was like, fine, I'm here. I have to own it. Sat in the front row, front and center. And the woman went through and talked about her book and said, are there any questions? Which there were none because no one had heard of her until that day. And so I just went, how did you publish your book? Really? You can do that free? You can do it on Amazon? And I just asked like 17 questions about the process of publishing and not a single thing about her book. Not knowing that, this is like, she's staring daggers at me. And then afterwards, I had to buy the book because you can't go to these things and not. Plus, no one else asked questions but me. So there's a picture of me holding the book, smiling, and she's looking up at me like, who is this freak? And so I went home and I was like, you know what? And I was mad because I was like, I had to buy this stupid book. I don't like romance. It's teenagers. Ugh. And I just decided because I'm, cantankerous, is I was like, you know what? I'm going to read it and I'm just going to make fun of the author the whole time. And so I read the book and I was like, the book's not bad. It's nothing I care about. I'll never, read anything like this again. And then I sat there, I was like, I bet I could do that. And so then I sat there and I tried, okay, what story would I tell? I, got ideas for actually the Haley Traveler was the first book that I ever wrote.
Oh.
And I rewrote it 14 times, fortunately, before anyone saw it. But yeah, that it all started then because my friend told me to go to an author signing for a book that I absolutely hated. So, random.
That's a sitcom moment there. Like that's a scene from a sitcom. I've been watching a lot of Cheers lately, and I'm going that'd fit perfect.
So that is the whole start. I was 46, and I said, you know what? I'm going to start writing.
Yeah.
And it took me 4 years, and I stopped with Haley Traveler after 7 times through writing it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a break, see if I can write a fantasy. And I wrote 4 fantasy books before I ever went back to Haley. And
yeah.
Then I finally published Haley last year, and now I've been on a sci-fi kick. So I tell you they're my plans, but they're worthless.
Yeah.
I did not think I'd do 2 years of sci-fi, and yet here I am. So
that's awesome. So did you find it easy to write at the start, or were you learning about everything? Like so you were just basically self-teaching yourself as you went?
So I will show you my first draft of Haley Traveler. This is it. Wow. In a nice binder with really cheesy graphics. And I gave it out to people at work, and they all told me it was good and I should publish it. And they clearly wanted me to fall on my face. So I got all but one of those back, and there's one person who's like, no, I looked, I don't have it anymore. I'm like, you're just hoping I get famous, because then you can be like, but look at this. So, but yeah, when I started, I would switch tense almost every other sentence.
Yeah.
It was abysmal. But I never wanted to be a writer. I never really practiced. So that's why it took me 4 years before I got anything out, and I was taking all kinds of classes in person and online, and how to do this, because I had no idea. But I'm very stubborn, so I did it.
That's awesome. Yeah. I almost feel guilty. I just had a knack for it from the get-go. I don't know. I just wrote a book, and but I really appreciate, like, there's a lot I'm still learning heaps. Like, I'm still learning a lot, and I take on criticism very well.
Yeah, you do.
And yeah, I just want to get better. Sure, I have a knack for certain things, but I want to get better. So each book is going to be better. That's my aim.
I've done this long enough that some of the hangups I've gone through and got over with, like, I was like, oh my God, how can I write a woman as the main character? And then I was like, if I write this, I'm going to alienate, 60% of the readers out there. And, and I wrote a novella with a woman as a main character, and no one complained about it. And I was like, wow, maybe it's not that big a deal. And I was just getting in my own way.
Yeah.
So, it's good to knock a few of those down. You're like, okay, take a breath.
That's it. So who are some of your influences, like your favorite authors that influenced your writing?
So my favorite author growing up was David Eddings.
Oh, yes. Yes. Finally, David Eddings is my favorite fantasy author of all time. And the Belgariad is one of my favorite collections. I have never heard anyone else say David Eddings. So thank you. Thank you, Mike.
I am crushing it today. But I would say that as far as like writing style, I probably write closer, not as well, but closer to Jim Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the Dresden Files because you get in, you get out, you have a good time. It's kind of like popcorn. You know what you're going to get. You're going to enjoy it, and then when you're done, you're like, well, what was that? I don't know, but I liked it. And you kind of move on with your day. I don't want to write heavy stuff that's going to sit with you forever. I want stuff that's fun. Although I've been told that I get very, very dark in some places in my books by people when I try to tell them it's light and fun, and they're like, no. So And I do have a thing now. I was at a Comic-Con at Authors Convention, and the guy at the panel with me, he said, somebody told me that they don't read first person present tense because the main character can't die because they're telling the story. And he said, challenge accepted. And he said at that point he said, I've written 8 books, and in 3 books now the main character dies. So they're all first person present tense. And I was like, really? This sounds like an awesome idea. So I did it for one of my novellas, and I have another one coming that I'm doing everything I can to make this the most likable character on earth, and I'm going to kill him in a malicious way. And I can't wait to hear the wails from people going, "You killed him!"
Yeah.
So that is my guilty pleasure now. Is I'm like, I want to build them up and make them wonderful just so I can kill them.
So I wonder, because I've never read anything like that. So when you kill someone like that, does it end like The Sopranos, or does it or does it switch point of views?
You switch point of views, and then somebody else has to take up the mantle, and but I did it, and it was actually this book, which is the best book I've ever written, and it's also my lowest rated, by far. I did a woman protagonist in the first one, and then the second one I did a villain protagonist. I'm not even an anti-hero. He was just despicable. And I just wrote, and I had one reviewer or beta reader, and she said, the writing is good. Most of my comments, I'm screaming at your character because I hate him. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Actually, I think, no, this is the one where the character dies. My bad. Yeah, I will have more. I'm very rough on my characters. They're there to be mowed down, and the last book is going to be all out war, and who knows if there's anyone left standing when I'm done.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the new one, the one that's coming out, Proxima Station. I'll bring up the cover, and we can take a gander at that.
There it is. So this is a departure for me because this one, it's humorous sci-fi. It's first contact, and the 5 alien races that they meet are based on the 5 dogs that I've had. All the idiosyncrasies they have become racial traits for all the aliens. And so the aliens that he talks to are given the names of my actual dogs that I had. And I'm like, I can't actually kill my dogs, not even figuratively. So, okay, I can't kill people. What am I going to? So, I was like, I guess it's going to lean towards cozy, which, again, I did not really think I would ever write. It's not one of my favorite genres, but I just started writing. And with this, all the dogs I lived with at least 12 years. So whatever situation you drop them into, I'm like, well, this is how they'll react. This one will do that. This, and I know there's no, what would happen in this situation? I'm like, well, Brenda would throw somebody against the wall till they agreed with her. Buddy would yip and run around like he's stupid. I just know. And so whatever happens, I'm like, yep. And then that would lead to this. And so I've never had anything quite so easy to write as this because, I know 5 of the 6 characters. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm actually working on the sequel. I'm calling it the Proxima Station Saga because I don't know how many novellas it'll end up being, but I'm working on number 2, and I know what 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to be, which should end the first story arc. And then 7, I got an idea where the next arc coming up. So this is going to be, Jim Butcher-esque, hopefully, and I'll get somewhere near 20 stories written. But I know what the first 6 are, and then I know what the next arc will handle. But that's about as far as I can see right now. But yeah, a lot of fun. And Anthony is the main character, and he's an anthropologist. And they get a letter that says there is a national emergency. They need him immediately to get his, stand for his PhD, and then get whisked away. And his advisor's like, what the hell is an anthropological emergency? I've never heard of such a thing. And he's like, I got no idea. And no one knows because the aliens, they showed up at Las Vegas, and the military just said, no, no, those were street performers dressed in costumes and they didn't have their permit, so we whisked them away. And then they got invited to a space station in Proxima Centauri. So there you go. And that's how the aliens got to Earth.
Wow. So is this like set near Earth, is it? Or
It's set near future. I don't actually say what year it is, but
yeah.
Okay.
And of course, the U.S. military, being the U.S. military, they've told no one about it. It's only the U.S. military, and they're keeping it, undercover and secret.
Ah, Stargate like.
And I don't know if you know Tim Wolf, fellow indie author.
I know the name. I probably do know him.
But I talked to him. I was like, hey, do you mind if I use your name in this book? You're going to be the villain. And he's like, great.
That's awesome.
So he is the villain in the book. And then I ended up using 17 different people who I know. I use their names as characters throughout the book. So yeah, I got a little bingo card where you can start crossing off the people as you meet them. And some of them don't know they're in the book, so that should be fun.
That's incredible. We have a friend of the podcast, Don Campbell, and he put out a post saying, "I will literally kill you." So you can sign up to be killed in his book because he writes horror. So
there you go.
It's a great way to get names.
Once in my newsletter a couple years ago, I was like, hey, if you contact me, I'll put you in the next book. And no one contacted me. So then I was like, you know what? We're not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to pick people's names.
Yeah.
So
That's
great. Yeah. This series, love this series. I'm keep telling myself I have to go back to fantasy. I can't just stay here, but this is a lot of fun to write. I really enjoy writing this. So
that's good.
We'll see.
It's good when you find something that you just love. Like me, I'm multi-genre, so it's great that I've actually entered a series now and I'm loving it. I'm already thinking about the next books, even though I'm only halfway through my current one. It's just like I'm taking notes for future projects. It's just I love being in a world, finding my jam.
So how do you take notes?
I just have a like spreadsheet pretty much. I have physical notes. I have physical note paper, but I also have like spreadsheet with chapter outlines and everything. But then last time, I think I was updating one and I hit delete by accident, and then it was all gone, just all of it. And I was like, I realized that I'd been pantsering and ignoring it anyway, so it didn't really matter. But now I've got multiple. I'm saving more quickly, copying it to hard drives.
So I just write mine on Post-it notes, and
awesome.
then I just stick them on my writing desk, and then they get piles over top of it. And I will publish a book, and I'll be like, "Hey, there were notes I had on that book that's already been published, and I just now saw these notes again."
Yeah.
So I probably need a better method.
Yeah. Because you have the bad chance or the chance of putting a post-it note on the wrong book or something in the wrong place,
Well, I mean, I haven't reused names, so I know, yeah, I've definitely found stuff for the Haley Traveler like 4 months after I published the book going, that would have been an interesting direction to go, but too late.
Yeah, second edition.
And I'm like, can I put that in a book later in the series, maybe?
Yeah. That sucks. Ryan, we can't see your face. We can't tell if you want to say something. Is there any questions for Mike you've got?
Yeah, just going back to the cover, I always like to ask this of our guests because I obviously grew up reading because I read a lot, but I grew up reading comic books and I still do to this day. I love the cover that you've got there. Obviously, it's very, I don't want to say simple because the space station is very detailed and there's lots of different intricate parts to it. But did you design that yourself, or did you get someone else? Did you contract someone else to do the cover for you?
Oh no, I can't draw stick people well. So no, this was K. Francis, I think is his name. He's out of England. He did the cover for me.
I know him. Yeah.
And he did a lot of the character art inside. So that in the book, when you get there, there's 10 chapters, and that's going to be going throughout. They're all going to have 10 chapters, and so I have like Anthony Bell's the main character, so you'll see his picture before chapter 1, and then I have a different character space between each chapter. So he did most of the character art as well, and that again makes it wonderful when you have the character art, so you know what they look like. You know how tall are they. You can set all this. You don't realize you're making these decisions when you just kind of play with them and size them, but you are. And then when they interact, does he have to reach down to hit his shoulder? In this case, Grendel is 12 feet tall, so no one's going to touch her face. But yeah, but I'm really happy that I got all the character art first before I really start writing, because again, that makes it easy, especially when you're describing aliens, because now I can look at them and I know, and I kind of build a biological backstory now that I have pictures, and like, well, if they're like this, that means that, so yeah, you get you can build up the character a lot, especially when you can see it ahead of time. So, and I feel sorry for my Basset Hound, because the alien based off of him is just a upright slug with creepy ears.
So with your fantasy novels, did you get the same artist to do your fantasy art as you did with the sci-fi?
No, for the fantasy, I used Dmitry Yahovsky. He's Belarusian, but he lives in Poland. He married a Dutch wife, and they have a child, and I have no idea what that makes the child other than European. But Dimitri's done all my fantasy covers, and my fantasy series is going to be 7 books. And like book 2 or whatever, he's like, "Hey, Mike, I've been accepted to an exclusive online art gallery. They're going to sell my prints for me." I'm like, "Well, one, I don't know what an exclusive online art gallery is, other than they tell you it's exclusive." But I went on the site, and all of his oil paintings he did had been marked up 5 times when he was selling them for. And I was like, "Hey, Dimitri, do you want to do the rest of the books in this 7-book series while I can afford it?" So I've had my covers now for years for books awesome. 5, 6, and 7 that Dimitri's done that, I'm dying to show people eventually, but I have to get back to writing those. So yeah, Dimitri did all that. There's another fantasy series that's set in Spain about the same time period as my Druids. But just because Spanish mythology, there's so much Spanish mythology out there, and no one is writing about it. So I wrote like 30,000 words in that, and I stopped. But that's going to be my next fantasy series that I do. I have 2 sci-fi series. I don't have a problem for ideas. I just need more time.
That's the writer's problem. Too many ideas, not enough time.
So one day I'll be retired and I can just write for fun.
Yep.
Yeah, Grommy is stupid. I'll tell you, in Haley Traveler, Chris is the main character in this. And basically, I've thought about it now. Everything I write, the main character is just blasted with 16 different things at once and is almost overwhelmed and just has to figure it out. And that's pretty much my story style for all of them. But Chris is 17 years old, and if they were real, I would apologize to him for what I put him through, because Grommy is stupid. He makes his own problems half the time.
Yeah.
Chris is just unfortunate what happens to him. And I feel bad at times, and then I realize he's really fictional, so why should I feel bad?
Yeah.
But and then for the new series, Anthony, he is actually based on a friend that I know. And I'm like, "Well, I can't kill you, but public humiliation is going to be prevalent." And he's like, "Okay, bring it on." I'm like, "Oh, you should not have encouraged me." So
in terms of what you're working on at the moment, so you're going to continue on with the sci-fi saga, and you said you're already working on the sequel, and you've got, I think, did you say you had up to book 6 plotted out?
Yeah. So what happened this year was I was writing the sequel to Haley's Traveler, and it got to a good spot. I sent it out to beta readers, and so I was like, okay, I have a month to kill before I get feedback. So I'll just start writing Proxima Station just more for fun. And I wrote that, and then I rewrote it, and I was like, this is at the beta reader stage. And so then I had to say, hey, everyone, all my beta readers are busy with the first book. Who wants to do this one? And so I got all the feedback back for both books about the same time. And I was like, Proxima is closer to being published. So I made a conscious effort to, stop on Haley 2, publish Proxima. So as soon as this is published, I'll jump back at Haley 2, which is why I'm thinking that'll probably go out in September, because the feedback I got was very positive as well. So that is close to publishable. So I'm hoping by September I can publish it. And then in the meantime, while I'm waiting for a couple things to get done from Fiverr people for, typesetting and getting my cover fitted properly, I'm just writing the sequel Jungle Planet to Proxima Station. And that's going really well. I'm halfway through it, and I've been at it for 2 weeks. So potentially I could get that out in December. But then after that, I keep telling people I'm going back to fantasy. I promise I'm not going to George R.R. Martin you. I am going to finish. I know what happens in the 3 final books. So that is kind of the plan. Although Haley 3, I wrote a novella for an anthology that ended up not getting published. So that's going to be Haley 3 now. And so I know the whole plot arc. I just have to fill it in and, take my time and not rush. But so I could publish 2 books next year, and then the Proxima ones I squeeze in here and there. I don't know. I could publish 3. I could publish 1. I could publish 0. I make plans and then I never hit them. So at some point you just do.
Yep. Do you find it easy to avoid writer's block almost because you've got so many projects going on? Like, because you can theoretically bounce from one to another if you ever get stuck.
So, was it Chris Hayes? I saw an interview with him. He's like, I have 3 series going at all times. That way, after I write, series A, the book, then I go to B, then I go to C. Then by the time I go back to A, 1, I had to reread it to see where I left off. And 2, I've had all this time and I was like, that's what I want. I want 3 series. So I went from fantasy to sci-fi, and I tried another fantasy, but I got stuck. And I was like, you know what? Okay, let's just do something else. So I started jump back to sci-fi. And I just, now I have options. Before I just had my fantasy series, I did 4 books in a row. And that last book took me 15 months because it was like pulling teeth. And I talk to people who are like, well, that will grind you down to dust if you just do 1 series all the time. And I'm like, well, how do I know that? I'm an accidental author. I don't know these things. So, but now it's great just having, I can jump from one to the other, like the fantasy that I got bogged down in. I haven't looked at it in about a year, and I have ideas now that I'm writing on Post-it notes. But yeah, we'll see. I should always have something to write.
All right, bonus stuff, do you reckon, Ryan? Have you got more?
Sure.
All right. So these are our bonus questions. We've been refining them over the years. Don't worry, that they're fun. They're all book related. Maybe one you may get stumped on, but we'll see. We'll see.
Oh.
So you want to take it away, Ryan?
You can go first on these ones, seeing as I went first on the others.
Okay. Well, you said you've been reading a lot, since you were young, I take it. So what's a book from your childhood or teens that stood out to you that still sticks with you?
I started reading fantasy because I read On the Prophecy by David Eddings. It's the first one I read, and I read all 5 of those books in the Belgariad. So that's going to be the one. That just introduced me to a whole. I mean, I like his setup is basically, they went from one country to the next, so you got to see all these different cultures, and they just get and it's 80s, it's quest based. Yeah, this is what I grew up on. I read all the Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance books, So, I'm used to quests. When I write a book, it tends to be a quest. But yeah, I would say Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings would be the one I'd choose. And my goal
Brilliant
is to not
answer.
say Tolkien in any of these.
No Tolkien.
No, I honestly, my grandmother introduced me to David Eddings, and she had the Belgarath the Sorcerer and Polgara the Sorceress in hardcover. So I read both of those, and then I went on and bought. I found out about the Belgariad saga, which obviously had more Belgarath than Polgara. So I went off, and I think I've read that series at least 20 times. It's so good.
Yep, I've read it many, many times. Not probably in like 10 years, but not since I started writing. But yeah, I've read it a million times. Just
Yeah.
it never fails. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. Well, question number two. If you could spend the day with any fictional character, who would it be and what would you do?
Um, I would spend it with Rohan, from Wistful Ascending by J.C.M. Byrne. If you have not read that, that book actually makes me laugh out loud. Um, Rohan is basically a superhero at this point, and he was recruited to fight in an army, and he got let out of the army. No one else did, and no one knows why. And so he's just a burnt out soldier. He just wants a moment's peace. So he's at the station. Wistful Ascending is the name of the space station, and he takes spaceships and tugs them in, and puts them up. And then, of course, drama finds him. They're space bears. And Joe loves puns and dad jokes, so they're sprinkled throughout the entire book. And again, just makes me laugh. So I would want to spend it with Rohan just because I would laugh all the time and he'd have no idea why.
That's awesome. All right, number three. This is a bit of a favorite one. I'll set the scene for you. It is a nice. Let's say you're in a log cabin. It's
Okay.
middle of winter. It's the fire's going. It's nice and warm. You're sitting on the floor, and in a chair sits your favorite book of all time. And someone is going to come in and read that book to you. Who is that person? Living, dead, anyone?
Oh God. Don't. Okay. I don't know the person's name,
Mm,
but if you all have read Dungeon Crawler Carl, which I'm sure is a good book, but I've listened to it on audiobook,
all right.
and I have never laughed out loud as hard as when whoever the audio guy
Look it
is
up.
for Dungeon Crawler Carl.
I'm gonna look it up.
Um, I mean, I'm not a big lit RPG guy, but I read that, I listen to that, and I laugh. Um, yeah, I'm never going to write grimdark because I have to laugh when I'm, if I can't laugh at characters. But
His name is Jeff Hayes.
yes, that's it. Yep.
There you
So
go.
yeah, Jeff Hayes does a masterful job. At some point, I'll get up the courage to ask him if he can read one of my books for me, but I don't even know what he charges.
Yeah.
It's probably out of my league.
Yeah.
But if I had funds to do so, I think he would be one I would jump to.
Awesome, Jeff Hayes. I will be looking that out after we. I'll be checking that out after we hit stop recording, pretty much.
So I would recommend do not read Dungeon Crawler Carl. Get the audio book.
Yeah, and listen to it.
Yeah, just yeah, it so many things. I'm going to Worldcon here in a month, and so many people have read that, and I'm just going to go up to people and go, "Damn it, donut!" And they're going to laugh because they're going to know what that means, and just it is a lot of fun. And again, I'm not a lit RPG person, but the performance just makes it.
Excellent.
Awesome. Okay, question number four. What is a must-read indie book?
A must-read indie book. Let's see. I'm going to go with, since I've started reading indie, books that are not things that I would normally gravitate to, but it's like, I'll give it a try. So what is this? Shadow of Wolves by J.R. White. Think of, straight out of Central Casting, a Clint Eastwood type cowboy rides into a town where people are getting murdered. He has to figure out why, and it's a werewolf. See it? Clint Eastwood meets a werewolf.
Oh,
I'm not a big Western fan, and if I never read anything else with vampires or werewolves, I would be thrilled.
yeah.
There's no reason in the world for why this should hit for me. But I've told the story before. I was driving to a Comic-Con that's about 9 hours away. I put this book on as I'm driving, and all of a sudden I was like, what's that light that just came on in my dash? And it was the low gas light, because I was so engrossed in the book that I didn't even realize I was about out of gas.
Oh, wow.
And I'm in rural Virginia at this point, so I'm like, do I have to turn around and go back? Where's the nearest gas station? I hope I have time.
Yeah.
So I gassed up and I went again. I listened to it, and I got through Knoxville, Tennessee, and it's raining and nasty. And then a light came on in my dash, and it was the low gas light again. And I'd listened to the entire book in one drive, and I almost ran out of gas twice because I was
Wow.
just so engrossed in the book. I've never had that happen before. And I mean, JR, we've had him on the show. He's a friend of mine, and he's the one, before I did audiobook, I asked him about it, and he said, listen, when I, listen to all these auditions, I listened to over 30 people. He goes, and when this guy read it, I just got chills because that was the voice I'd been hearing in my head when I wrote it.
Wow.
And he goes, I just knew I had my, narrator, and it was just, please let me be able to afford him. And so when I did mine, I just, I listened, and then I was like, that's it. That is the voice. And it's the best advice I ever got in writing was, get someone whose voice matches what you're hearing in your head when you write it. So, but yeah, J.R. White, Shadow of Wolves. He's a retired MMA fighter.
Oh, wow.
He's professional, but he never made it on TV. But yeah, if you should have him on your show. He has a million stories. His wife was in the Army, so they traveled everywhere. At one point, he was teaching martial arts to the guards at Leavenworth, Kansas, which is the military jail you go to if you in the Army or Navy, whatever. They send you to Leavenworth, Kansas.
Yeah.
And he was training the guards there because his wife was stationed there. He's in the Merchant Marines. There's a million stories the man has. He's wildly entertaining. Highly recommend him. And his books, again, why am I reading Westerns? He told me his Louis L'Amour was the one that he just loves. And I just thinking, Louis L'Amour is what you listen to when you can't fall asleep.
Yeah.
Because that'll do it. I hate Louis L'Amour. And, he's like, this is where I draw my inspiration from. I'm like, there's no reason for me to like your book. There's zero reason. But it just hits. So that is probably my favorite book that of the last 5 years that I've read, and I've been reading primarily indie, and that is still on top.
Excellent. I've just taken note of him. I will be reaching out to him at some point. Because that just sounds like a really good book. I love Westerns. Like, not all Westerns, but a well-written Western. Because I know a lot of them are, it seems like it's oversaturated. One of my favorite video games is Red Dead Redemption, but, it's got to be done well,
So I will say, he also, like me, I have to research things to death. And he told me he actually found there was a court case from 1648 in Germany where a father and his sons were accused of using something to become werewolves and kill people.
Mm-hmm.
So he actually took that summary of the court case, and that's, smack dab first thing in his first book. So, he does the research. He talked to people. The book takes place in Arizona, New Mexico, and he talked to people he knew in that area. It's like what it would be like, water, how close, how long, he gets the details right. And to me, that's everything, because I can't stand the people like, well, magic, it's fantasy. Who cares? I'm like, you're just lazy. Yeah. And he gets it right. He actually wrote to people who curate museums for book 3. He goes to whiskey forts, which when they were settling the West, they, of course, would just bring whiskey to the natives because, they never had alcohol before. And this is not the most glorious part of America's history, but, they existed. So he's like, what is a whiskey fort? What would be there? What would it look like? How big is it?
Yeah.
And he gets all those details. And they show up, I mean, sprinkled in. It's not like Moby Dick when I'm going to take this chapter to educate you on whiskey forts.
Yeah.
He does it really well. Phenomenal writer.
That's He's on my list now. He's on my radar. Thank you, Mike.
Cool.
This is what it helps when we both have shows. We can swap guests and all that stuff. All right, now this one may be hard, may not. But if you could take any protagonist from any one of your books and throw them into someone else's works, like they can visit the world, where would they go? Who would you choose? Where would they go? And we can make this movies, video games, books, whatever you like.
So one of my characters.
Yeah.
I would have to take Grommy because again, he's kind of dumb, so the options are endless. And I would put him. Oh, where would I put him? Okay, I'm not saying Tolkien. I just will not say Tolkien. I mean, that would work out great, but no Tolkien. Grommy, you know what? I would move him all the way up, and I would put him into the Dresden Files.
Ooh.
Because he walks around with his quarterstaffs. Him and Harry Dresden both with staves.
Mm-hmm.
And he would get them in so much trouble. That would have to be it. Just modern society, he'd be freaking out because in my books, Druids have forsworn all metal because you're stealing from the earth to do it, so they will not use any metal of any kind. And put them in modern day Chicago. Yeah, I think that would be wonderful.
Excellent.
I like it. Okay, this is the final of the bonus questions. So what are your 3 desert island books? So you're stuck on a desert island for the rest of your life. What are 3 books that you choose to take with you?
Okay, well, again, I will stick with JR's Shadow of Wolves. I will take Wistful Ascending from JCM Byrne because that makes me laugh. And I will take Heirs of a Flawed Creation, which is behind me. E.L. Montague wrote it. It's set between the second and the impending third human-android solar system-wide war. And everything in there are short stories or novellas from the android's point of view. Again, not really what I gravitate towards normally, but it's a couple times I read, I was like, EL, I have to know what happens. You stop, you end the story. What happens next? It's a short story. That's not the end.
Yeah.
And he's actually writing, the one book was novellas for all the androids. The second one, Adrift in the Revolution, is all the novellas and short stories for all the humans who are going to play active parts in his series. And now he's going to write the series, and he has all of his characters. He has all their backstories and everything. And I'm just like, I have to know.
Yeah.
And he has not written that first book in space opera that he's going to yet. So I still don't know. And I still grouse at him all the time because he's writing fantasy now. And I want him to write more sci-fi.
That's usually what happens. Excellent. Excellent. Well, there you go. You've passed that lot.
I will say other than Jim Butcher and Dresden Files, I read almost exclusively indie.
Yep.
Because indie authors can do whatever the hell they want. They are not bound by, the stupid rules that. So, I mean, some of the most wildly entertaining and sometimes they don't work and you're just like, okay, well, but you can get some phenomenal books that, would never have made it through traditional.
Yeah.
So and plus, as an indie author, I want to support other indies. So that's basically what I read. But I didn't even mention, Sunset Sovereign is behind me with the nice dragon. That's a cozy fantasy. It's kind of if you know Bilbo when he goes into Smaug's cave.
Yep.
Well, it's kind of like that, except for the person is a woman. She's been given the charge of kill the dragon up there on the hill. And so she goes in sword drawn, ready to kill this dragon. And the dragon says, if you let me tell you my story, I'll leave and all this is yours. And it's too good to be true, but it's too good not to let play out. And so the rest of the story is, will he eat her or won't he, as he tells the story of the founding of the city that now hates him and blah, blah. And
wow.
I mean, again, you would never find that in traditional. So if I could sneak in a fourth, I'd probably do that. But yeah, I'm just really a cheerleader now for indie because what I read, I either it really hits and I'm just amazed, or even if it's just like a good book, since I know the people, I can see them on the pages, and I almost feel like I get to know them better because it's not autobiographical, but you can see their thought process are down on the page.
Yep.
So it's really, most authors I've never met, but I've read their books and I feel like I know them.
Yeah.
We'll see when we actually meet at Worldcon if that's true or not, but but yeah. So yeah, I am very much an indie cheerleader now.
Yep.
So
you're not alone there. Yeah, I don't read very much. I mean, the last book I read, which I just got from SK Part, he sent me a copy. That's brilliant, and it's just cyberpunk and it's fun and it's balls to the walls and a lot of great characters. But I love indie, and that's why we made a whole lot of merch because soon I'll order some shirts and you'll see me wearing my
nice.
I heart indie. I don't think I made I heart indie. I think read indie. One says read indie and one says support indie authors, I think. But yeah. Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mike. It's been a blast.
Thank you for coming on.
This has been actually a lot of fun, and I didn't get stumped, so I'm really kind of excited.
They don't know that. I could have fixed everything in edit. No. Why don't you quickly plug Bald and Balding for those who may not know?
So I am one of the two members of Bald and Balding. I'll let you guess which one I am. We started about 2 years ago. We interview authors. We do about 10 a month, which I can't believe because when we started, we're like, how can we get one author a week? How can we keep up that pace? And now, last summer, we did 44 interviews over the summer in 90 days and just about killed us. So, but we do almost exclusively indie authors or maybe small press authors, fine. And we really try to look for authors who are not known, household names, because, I love Philip Chase. We had him on the show once, but the man does not need our help. He's doing great. Andy Pelican doesn't need our help. He's selling a ton of books. So, I like to meet other authors who are, probably earlier in it. We can talk about being in the trenches and the things that we faced. You can give some advice. Ro is my partner. He's written 9 books. He's my editor. And he actually gives me back editing. It's like, this sucks. You need to change it. Which is fine. I mean, I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I'm the third of 4 boys. If you try to be subtle, it will be completely lost on me. So he's exactly the editor I need. And we interview authors. We have creature creation where we just come on and develop really strange creatures that then I have my artist Dimitri draw for me. And one day I'm going to publish the most demented D&D creature book ever. But yeah, we go on. We have a lot of fun. We try to actually talk about people's books, at least for a little bit. And yeah, mostly we don't. But we have fun. It's 2 or 3 times a week usually. You can find us Bald and Balding. It's bald_and_balding. We thought the name was great, and if you look us up, you'll see all sorts of Hair Club for Men videos, and you finding us is a chore. So we probably should have looked at that before we started, but we didn't know what we were doing. We just jumped in, and we still don't know what we're doing, but we're having fun, so we continue to do it.
I'll link that down in the show notes. But I do find if you type bald and balding as one word, you'll find it. Instead
Oh,
of
okay.
yeah, you know.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been 2 years. We have like 420 subscribers. So we're a tiny channel. We're, very slow growing, but it's fine. We still have people who want to be on. We still live will have anywhere from 30 to 60 people generally on a show.
That's cool.
And, if I told you, do you want to go to your local library and talk to 30 to 60 people interested in your book? What author is going to say no?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, for now, we're going to keep doing it. And if Roe should quit, I already know I'm going to just make it get off my lawn, and I'm going to continue.
Yeah. And it'll just be called Bald.
Yeah.
Sweet. Now, plug yourself. Where can we buy your books? Have you got a website, your socials, anything you want to plug? Even go through your books again if you want.
My books are all on Amazon, and they're all out of order now. Becoming a Druid, first book I published. It's also available in audiobook. James Meunier does it, and he's actually from Bristol, England. So when he's like, "Are you going to give me a pronunciation guide?" and I was like, "Well, I could, but since you're from the area, you know better than me." And the things that when he pronounced, like, "Huh, is that how they pronounce it?" And I've had a couple people from England say, "Thank you for getting this right."
Yeah.
We figure with American, I was like, "That's not me. That's James. He lives there. He knows." I would have got it wrong. So 4 books so far in this series. 5th one will be out next year. Quote me on that, unless I don't do it. Then Haley Traveler is my first sci-fi foray. Book 2 will be out by the end of this year, and it's called Stranded and Alone. And then Proxima Station will be out July 25th. And the sequel will be out winter. I don't know if I'll get it in December or not. It might be January or February, but it'll come out in winter. And then, yeah, who knows where I'll go after that, because I go to what the shiniest thing is. So
Awesome. Well, all Mike's links and all that will be down in the show notes. Please check out his stuff. Check out Bald and Boarding. I was on there a while ago. It is fantastic. It's a lot of fun, and you even get to play some D&D. So definitely check that out. Remember to check out our sponsors, Rebecca Cassells, Martin Kearns. Buy some merch, support some indie authors. And if you want to reach out, thetrueandthefictional@gmail.com. But until next time, support those indie authors, and we'll see you later.
See you next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Martin Kearns and the Valor of Valhalla series. In the battle between 2 ancient evils, can one naive young man become the last hope against powerful creatures of legend? Beneath the Veil is the gripping first book in the Valor of Valhalla dark urban fantasy series. If you like reluctant heroes, infernal myths, and bloody epic clashes, then you'll love Martin Kearns' formidable foray into the unknown. So head on over to readkearns.com and grab yourself a copy of Beneath the Veil today.